channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down a beat and a sample for Future, which I made from scratch. So if you want to improve your sound selection, you want to learn how to make better melodies, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna break down every single layer and the thought process behind it. After that, I'm gonna move on to the drums and I'm gonna show you how to mix your drums so they hit hard. So without too much talk, let's just get into the video. This is the project file, and starting off, I wanted to go for a more ethnic sound selection here. So I pulled up Omnisphere and I got this Mandolin B preset, and I laid down this extremely simple, catchy and repetitive pattern. All we're doing here is we're using a 1-5 chord progression. This is the 1 chord and this is the 5 chord. Now the way I came up with this chord is basically I laid down a simple triad chord. So root, 3rd, 5th. After that I went ahead and I pitched this middle note a semitone down, so like this, and then I pitched it up an octave. Then I went and I took this note and I pitched it up here, and basically I just broke down the chord and I added this note here. And once I had these two notes, all I did was I dragged it here and I pitched it down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This sounds like way too dry. You want to spice it up with some effects. So the first thing which I did was I didn't want the whole melody to be halftime. So I just took this higher frequency range of the higher notes and I brought them down like using halftime. Like you can just hear the top notes are a little bit more muffled and they don't sound as sharp. After that I pulled up Shaper Box and I'm using this effect chain, which is from my Fragments kit. This preset is called Vinyl Snap, so pretty much it just makes it more vintage. After that I wanted to make it even more vintage and more wobbly, so I threw on RC20 with the Vinyl 2 preset. And for the final effect I opened up Portal, and from my Fragments kit I picked this Freak preset, which just gives the sample that tiny bit of texture on top. So with all the effects it sounds like this. For the second layer, I wanted to add something which, gave more body to the sample because it was rather weak. And I went ahead and I pulled up this cinematic piano from Keyscape and I laid down this, which basically just follows the root notes. Once you have a bass melody and you have the main idea laid down, you might wonder how to proceed from here. And the best way to go about it is usually something which adds more high end to the sample. And since quite a few of Future songs have this, vocal in the background, which is somewhat ethnic, I went ahead and I pulled up Arcade, and using this Waking Dreams bank, I got this vocal which I chopped it up and now it sounds like this. Now for the effects, I wanted to have the sound more in the background, so I added this EQ. After that, I added this Valhalla Vintage Reverb. We have a main melody, we have some textures, we have some body to the sample, and the next thing to add to the sample was some accents, just something like ear candy. So I pulled up Mellotron and I got this White Wedding preset, basically just follows the root notes. I went ahead and I added this EQ, which is taking out the high end. We have this Valhalla Vintage Reverb. Now I know I'm repeating myself, but I've said this before, if you want your samples to sound put together, you want to use the exact same effects on every single layer, and that's just gonna make the sample sound like it's in the same room, like it's in the same dimension. Finally, since I wanted something which is gonna make the sample sound more liquid, if that makes sense, I went ahead and I got this phrase, which is from my Fragments kit. But what I did was I just chopped that first part, I duplicated it, and after that, for the second part where the chord switch up happens, I brought it down 5 semitones, you know, to just match the chord progression. After that, it was time to add the drums, and since we're in this higher BPM, which is, you know, typical for Future, I went ahead and I started with this hi-hat. I just added these rolls here and here, and after that I basically just copied it over. Of course, I added the snare, which is, you know, just a hard trap snare. I added this open hat, which, you know, just adds to the whole bounce of the beat. Now it was time to add the whoa end of the beat, so I went ahead and I pulled up the spins, which is a little bit more different. It has that high-end distortion to it. I shortened it a little bit. After that, I played with the envelope, so the moment it stops playing in the piano roll, the 808 cuts out. Without overdoing it too much, I followed the root notes, and at the end I just added this roll. And finally, to give it that extra punch, all I did was I took the kick and I layered it on the exact same places where the 808 hits, the kick hits as well. All of the sounds are from my drum kits. If you want to get them, I'm gonna leave them in the description. They're completely free. And this is how the drums sound. When it comes to mixing drums, I've made a complete in-depth video about it. You can check it out here. But the main point to remember is you want to level your sounds. If you have a kick, the kick is always going to be the loudest part. You would usually have the 808 under it. That's going to be a couple of dB down. And here I have it at like 6, while the kick is hitting 3. You want your snare to punch, like you don't want it too harsh, like you don't want it louder than your kick, of course, but you still want it to hit, like usually around 6 dB to -3 dB. And when it comes to open hats, hi-hats, you know, all these hats, what you want to do is you just want to keep them not too harsh, not too in your face, but also not too weak. Because, you know, you want to establish a bounce with the hi-hats. So usually I would have them leveled like a little bit under the 808. So here I have them hitting at like 9 and the 808 is at 6. And after that, for the open hats, that depends a lot. So, you know, you can keep it at the same level as the hi-hats. You can just put it a little bit under the hi-hats. But the main thing is you don't want to add, you know, all these crazy plugins on your drums. You just want to use good drum sounds to start with, and after that all you gotta do is just level them. With that being said, this is the final beat. So I hope you liked this video. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and catch you in the next video.